The reality is, when I started my life, nobody thought I was going to be successful. My own mother quietly assumed I was going to fail. My best friend said, "Oh, I just assumed you were going to marshmallow your way through life." My father-in-law, when I asked for his blessing to marry his daughter, he said, "No, they were right. I was wrong." I go on to build a billion-dollar business, but I start laying in bed 5 hours a day, not knowing how the fuck I'm going to make my dreams come true. So the question is, then how did I become successful? And the only honest answer is the very reason you're here, which is the only thing that matters is skill set. What's up, everybody? All right, motherfucker, sit down. Shit is about to get really real. So here is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna put myself on a high wire act, which is that very shortly you guys are gonna get access to a microphone, and I want you to ask the hardest fucking question you can think of. And we're gonna solve that shit in real time. Now, one clap. One motherfucker's here to change their life. Whoever that one lonely clap was, you better break an ankle getting to that microphone. But here's the reality. You guys are all here because you want to do something great with your life. That's why you come to a conference called the $10 billion conference, something called Driven. But the difference between wanting to do something and knowing how to do it is a massive chasm. And what I want to do in the next 60 minutes is teach you how to cross that chasm, because it is possible. The reality is, when I started my life, I was literally just talking about this behind stage, nobody thought I was going to be successful. Okay? You were looking at the after picture. Now, let's talk about the before picture. My own mother, when I left for college, quietly assumed I was going to fail. My best friend said, "Oh, I just assumed you were going to marshmallow your way through life." My father-in-law, now father-in-law, then just extraordinarily intimidating person, when I asked for his blessing to marry his daughter, he said no. And he said, "Tom, look, I've become very successful in my life. My daughter has become used to a certain way of life. How do you plan to take care of her?" And I said, "Sir, I know what you're seeing right now is a broke, unemployed, undereducated kid, but I'm telling you right now, I'm the most ambitious person you've ever met, and one day I'm going to make your daughter a wealthy woman." The problem was, he knew something that I didn't. These were the three people closest to me in the world that believed I was going to fail, and they had not misidentified me. They were right. I was wrong. Now, I say there's three things that I look for in anybody that wants to come work with me. Number one, I look for grand ambition. Because if you don't have grand ambition, I'm going to seem like a crazy person. Because I really believe that I can do anything I set my mind to. Number two is drive, and number three is compassion. Now, compassion is beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about today, but drive isn't. Most of you, unless you already have a business that's going, you're what I call an empty dreamer. You have a dream, and that's really important. You've got the ambition. You want to do something great, just as I did. But the very next day, after telling my soon-to-be father-in-law that I was the most ambitious person he'd ever met, I laid in bed for 5 hours. Now, I laid in bed 4 to 5 hours every single day, and the only thing that got me out of bed was the shame of knowing that my then-fiancée was coming home because she was the only one with a job. She was going to come home, and I was supposed to have a sandwich made for her by the time she got there. And if I didn't finally get out of bed and stop watching music videos, I wasn't going to have the sandwich ready on time, and then I would have to confess that I'd just been laying in bed. Okay? That's where I started. I go on to build a billion-dollar business, but I start laying in bed 5 hours a day, not knowing how the fuck I'm going to make my dreams come true. Now, if you make the mistake of thinking that somehow I have something in me that is special, that is different, that allowed me to be successful, you would be wrong, and you will let yourself off the hook by making me extraordinary. Don't make me extraordinary, because I'm not. So the question is, then, how did I become successful? And the only honest answer is the very reason you're here, which is the only thing that matters is skill set. The reason that I was marshmallowing my way through life, the reason that I was laying in bed for 4 to 5 hours a day, was I didn't have skills, and I didn't realize that I could get skills. I don't have an entrepreneurial instinct in me. How many born entrepreneurs do we have here? 6. Man, guys, you're not gonna fucking make it. You're not gonna make it. How many born entrepreneurs do we have here? All right. I am not one of you. I am not a born entrepreneur. I have had to cobble myself together one brick at a time. Now, the great news is, because I have done it, and I've learned everything the hard way, I know how to explain it to people. And I've always believed that the only people that should be able to write the manuals, an instruction manual, is somebody that struggled to build that thing. Because if it came easily to you, you're not going to know where the problems are. And you have to understand the problems, the things that are going to trip people up. I know the things that are going to trip you up. I know the things that are tripping you up right now. Whether you have a 7-figure business that you're trying to scale to be the billion-dollar business, or whether you're trying to start your first company, or whether you're just trying not to go out of business. I know all the things you're going to encounter because I encountered them all and struggled with them and had to put together tools and tactics. Now, I always love it when Jim Quick goes before me because he focuses people on the brain. What I'm going to convince you of by the end of this talk is that you're having a biological experience. Now, it won't be clear why that matters until we get to the end. But those of you that begin to understand why you have to understand how your brain actually functions, that your brain is the result of millions of years of evolution, and quite frankly, your brain is fucking with you. And if there's a God, God put you in this body to fuck with you. Because otherwise, why would you have a negative voice in your head that tells you that you're not going to make it, that tells you that you're a loser, that tells you that you're not smart enough? It might be okay for the other person, but it's not going to be okay for you. That was certainly what I had a voice inside my head telling me every day. And I remember laying on the floor, face down, by the way, of my unfurnished apartment, feeling the cheap nylon fabric pushing into my skin and wondering, how am I ever going to make anything in my life? I don't know how to do this. And I remember lamenting to God. And I said, why make me just smart enough to realize how dumb I am? Why not either make me so dumb that I don't understand it, and I'm just blind to how dumb I am, or make me smart enough that I can actually do something with my life? But to put me in this weird gray area where it's like, hey, guess what? You're dumb. That was ruthless emotionally, and I spent so many years there. And it wasn't until I started reading about the brain and learning about this thing called brain plasticity, which basically every species has a choice. How interesting that we're in the equestrian center right now, because the example I always use of choice number 1 is horses. The species of horse chose to just know everything when you come out. So 20 minutes after being born, a horse can do all the things that a horse is going to do. 20 minutes after coming out, a baby can't be left alone. It'll vomit on itself, it'll poo in its diapers, it can't hold its own head up. Now that was a choice, and it's an incredible choice. And the result of that choice is something that if you're taking notes, I want you to write it down, because this is going to become the most important idea in your life. Humans are the ultimate adaptation machine. You are, by design, created to learn. And that choice, because while we are not blank slates as a species, we are the blankest of slates. We are the most determined by our choices than any other creature that has ever come along. Now that matters because no matter where you're at in your business journey today, the punchline is going to be if you want your business to grow, if you want to get to the next level, you have to learn something that you don't already know. You have to get better at something tomorrow than you are today. Whether that's reading the moves in the marketplace, like let me tell you, if you don't understand what NFTs are already, you're missing out. It's going to change the world, and don't say that I didn't tell you. It's as important, if not more important, than the internet, and most people in this room have never bought one, nor have they ever created one. Okay, this is 1997, and NFTs are the internet. You now know. Now maybe it's that. You have to understand the moves of a market. Maybe it's that you need to get better at operations. Maybe you need to understand finance better. Maybe you need to understand psychology better. In fact, who thinks they know the hardest problem in business? Just raise your hand if you know what the hardest problem in business is. We got one guy. Everybody better go see him afterwards because damn. I'm going to tell you right now, and the funny thing is, as soon as I say it, you're going to be like, shit, that's what I think it is too, but I didn't want to say it because I don't want to be a dick. The hardest thing in business is people. Look to your left, look to your right. Whether they're the people you work with or your customer. Damn. It gets frustrating. Who has ever had the impulse to shake one of their employees real hard? Just me? If you don't understand psychology, you're not going to make it. There's so many elements to this game. When somebody asks, like, have you ever asked yourself this question? What is money? Like, what is money? Oh my God, somebody actually knows the answer, or they're real close. I want you to shout that shit out. It's the ability to get energy secured across time and space. So you go do something really hard, you need a way to store the value of that time and energy, and that thing we call money. But you'll notice only she either knew it or had the courage to shout it out. Now, big it up, big it up, big it up. I teach a course called Business Decision Making. It's for six-figure and up entrepreneurs. And as with everything I do, I always tell people, if you didn't think that you got 10 times your value from that, get your money back, I'll give it to you. And I had one guy get a refund. He took the whole course and he asked for a refund. And his reasoning was that it was too simplistic. And I wanted to hang my head and weep for him. Because here's what we're going to spend. I'm going to wrap this up, and then we're going to spend the next, 30, 40 minutes doing this in real time so you see why this is so critical to understand. I could come up here and teach you sales, which everybody is going to tell you is important, and it is. I could stand up here and teach you marketing, and everybody's going to tell you that it's important, and it is. I could teach you funnels. I could teach you copywriting. These are all valuable. I could teach you HR, how to hire better, how to talk to your employees. These are all going to be critical things, and if you don't figure them out, your business is going to fail. But all of those things, you can hire somebody else to do. There is only one thing that you have to do. Nobody else is going to be able to do it for you, and that's make the right decision. Business is standing in a room with 1,000 doors. None of you are going to die from lack of opportunity unless you have picked the wrong industry. Assuming you're at least in the right industry, your business won't fail because of lack of opportunity. Your business will fail because you pursue the wrong opportunity, or you dilute your attention across too many things. So everybody in this room, I want you from now and forever to imagine yourself standing in a room with 1,000 doors, and your job is to know better than anyone else in the company, better than anyone else on the planet, which 999 of those doors to close. That's business. Rule number one of business, and if you think this is too simplistic, you're never going to make it. Rule number one of business, avoid a mortality event. Don't do things that if they fail, you go out of business. Why? Because business is a loop that I call the physics of progress. Now, why do I call it the physics of progress? Because everything in this world has a nature. Things that are inescapable. Gravity, we're all familiar with that. That's inescapable. That's the physics. The way large bodies interact, gravitational pull, the way all of that, we're used to hearing about Newtonian physics and things like that, and we all accept it. Nobody thinks that maybe tomorrow morning they could step off the building and they would float gently to the ground, right? We all get, you're gonna fucking slap down real hard on the ground. And we just accept it, but we never take the time to ask, what are the physics of business? What does it take? Hey, Tom, you're in a new industry. And in fact, let me walk you through my past. Company number 1, technology. We made security software, turned it into a multi-million-dollar company. Company number 2, nutrition. Say what? You went from software to manufacturing, and you had 3,000 employees, 300,000 square feet, a lot of equipment, but what did you know about it? I didn't know anything about it. Company number 3, oh, and by the way, Quest became $1 billion company. Thank you. Company number 3 is a media company. Already a multi-million-dollar company, well on its way to bigger and better things, but I won't call the B word till we actually get there. All 3 extraordinarily different industries. Security software, nutrition and manufacturing, and now media. And yet I've been able to build multi-million-dollar companies in all 3 divergent industries without learning about it before I got into it. So now the question is how? And the answer is the physics of progress. If you're taking notes, write this down, because I'm going to walk you through the actual fucking steps. And then I'm going to reinforce the idea that the physics of progress is all about thinking from first principles, understanding the physics of a situation, not thinking from analogy. We're not going to say this is like this. We're going to say this is the nature of this thing. This is necessarily true. And once you know what is necessarily true, you can go into any industry, face any problem, and know how to think your way through it. Know how to make good business decisions. There is a physics to this, and it goes like this. The physics of progress is the scientific method recontextualized for business. It is the quest for what is true. It is how you make progress. If you don't do this, you won't make progress. I promise you. Because it is the nature of progress itself. Step number 1, have a clear goal. There is a gentleman backstage that's very familiar with my work. And I always tell people, hey everybody, you think you're clear on what your goal is. You really believe it, but you're not clear. Step number 1 is get clarity. And this, I hear a version of this all the time. Tom, I already know what I want. In fact, maybe you already have a business. Your business is already doing great. You're making $10 million a year. You're fucking killing it. But you can't figure out why you can't get to the next level. And I will tell you it's one of 2 things. Either you're not clear enough or you're not running the physics of progress, which is just a loop. So here's what people will say when they think they have clarity. I want to win a gold medal, Tom. That's amazing. In what? The Olympics? Yes, Tom, the Olympics. Fantastic. Summer or winter? Summer. My man. Swimming or tennis? Swimming. Fantastic. Backstroke? Freestyle medley? What are we doing? Until you have so much clarity, this is another one, burn into your soul. Until you have so much clarity that you know what to do with the next 15 minutes, you're lost. If the next 15 minutes isn't self-evident to you, you're lost. So whenever you're like, I'm not sure what the next move is, it's because you don't have enough clarity. Goals demand certain actions. Let me give you an example. You're Kobe Bryant. You want to be the best that ever lived. Mightn't you want to pick up a basketball? Maybe you should practice. Can we agree? That's self-evident. Maybe you should practice more than the next person. Maybe you should study game film more than the next person. Maybe you should understand the psychology of the game and how to get inside other people's heads. Once you know exactly what you want, now your goals will tell you what you need to do. They will tell you what the demands are. And the way it works is this. I know what my goal is. I have hyper clarity. I know what, when, and how much. I have my goal. I've written it down. It has a date attached to it. Hyper specific. Then I have to identify what the impediment is between where I'm at and where my goal is. Hopefully you guys have all heard of the second law of thermodynamics. The second law of thermodynamics is one of the most applicable to business ever. And it states, in any closed system, that system will move towards entropy, which is just a fancy word for chaos, unless you inject energy. That is the truth of a business. So when you think, hey, my goal is there, and I'm here, why won't I just automatically get to my goal? That's the question. Okay? Literally, in that sentence, I just gave you everything you ever need to know. I know you don't think I did, but 10 years, when it clicks, and you hit me up, and you stop me somewhere, and you're like, Tom, yo, when I finally realized my whole fucking job as the decision maker of this company is to understand why, if we keep doing what we're doing now, why we will not get to our goal. And the answer is entropy. You will have to put energy into the system in order to get to a specific outcome.